up, mi gente? It's Bree, and welcome back to my channel, Life on Airplane Mode. I've got my cup of tea. I'm all set to go. Today I've decided to make a video about life on reserve. I've written about it on my blog, and a lot of people who know me and know what I do, they know that I spend a lot of time on call. I have a lot of things to do today. I've made myself a to-do list that's actually pretty overwhelming. Especially given the fact that I'm on call. So normally, when I'm on call, I don't really get a lot done because chances are I'm going to have to drop everything and leave for a flight. The thing is, I work out of Montreal and I live about 2 hours and 15 minutes away from the airport. So when I'm on call, like today, if I were to get called, they usually try to give you 3 hours or more notice. It's not always possible. Sometimes they call you, you have like an hour to get to the airport. It's not anyone's fault. It's just, something happened. Someone called in sick at the last minute. For whatever reason, you don't get a lot of time. And I mean, that's more rare. It's only happened to me once where I didn't get the full 3 hours plus notice, and that was last summer. And I have systems. So, first of all, what does it mean to be on reserve? For a flight attendant, reserve is on call. Now, other airlines might do it differently. Some flight attendants are 24 hours on call at a time. Other airlines have flight attendants on call for 12, and then the 12-hour shifts can change. So some people do 4 to 4, 2 to 2. So basically, you'd be on call from 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. and they can call you in that 12-hour block of time. For me, I'm on call 12 to 12. And so it's usually 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. or 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. I'm technically on call from 12 to midnight today. And you might wonder why I'm just chilling in my house and very far from being ready to go. And that's not usual for this time of year. So in the summer, we're really busy. And normally I would have already driven to Montreal and I would have been just hanging out by the airport waiting for the phone to ring. But given that this year is a little bit strange and it's not nearly as busy as it was last June, and I don't want to waste my time and my gas money driving all the way to another city just to find out that I'm not going to get called at all that day. And then I either have to drive straight home or I have to ask one of my friends if I can stay at their place for the night. So I do that when it's really busy. Like I'll end up staying a couple of nights in Montreal throughout a month, and I try to spread it out among my friends who live there. I am not above napping in my car and driving home after I've rested. I've already done that a couple of times. As for today, I really don't think I'm going to get called, and so today is my day to get things done, cleaning, organizing, chores and stuff like that. Thanks to the internet and cell phones, we can see how many people are missing generally in a day, and that's what makes it possible to not drive directly to the airport. Something that would happen a lot last summer is I would be on call at noon. I'd be in my car by like 11 a.m. and on my way towards the airport in my uniform. Now, last summer, that was really difficult because I would be in my full flight attendant uniform in a car that had no air conditioning, driving 2 hours in the boiling hot summer heat. And by the time I get to the airport, I'd be like disgusting. Like my hair, you have to be proper. So I'd have like my hair gelled down, or I'd have my makeup on and it'd be just like melting down my face because it was so hot. Also, the other thing that was bad about that is not having air conditioning meant that I had to drive with the windows down. So you go to all this trouble to like style your hair and do everything nice, and then by the time you get there, you've got wisps of hair just everywhere that you have to restyle. I learned that why bother? I should just gel it down at the airport when I get there, not beforehand. And then I got more confident and I wouldn't necessarily drive in my uniform. I would drive in something that was easy to change quickly. So sometimes it'd be like a summer dress and I would just put on nylons underneath it, and then that way when I arrived in the city, if I did get called and have to switch, it'd be just a really quick change my dress and I'd be pretty much good to go. People would always criticize how heavy my bags are and were, and it's just because when everything is uncertain, I have to pack as if I'm going to be gone for a week, because I might be gone for a week. People fail to realize when you're on call, you don't know. They can take away days that you were supposed to be off and give them back to you, like when you come back. So if they need somebody to go to Paris for 24 hours and you have only one day on call, but there's nobody else on call that day, you're going to Paris. And those 2 days that you thought you had off, if they're not part of your guaranteed days off, they're just gone. They like bulldoze over it. Like, you're in Paris those days, sorry. And then when you get home from Paris, now you're off instead of being on call. That's how that works. So basically when you're on call, it's the on-call stuff is pretty simple at its core. People make it sound like it's so complicated if I try to explain it to them, because it does sound kind of complicated. In a month, there's 4 options. You're either on a morning reserve shift, on a evening reserve shift, you're on a day off, or on a guaranteed day off. There's only 4 choices. If you're on a day off, you're on a day off. You're free. The problem is getting to the day off. So if you have a guaranteed day off, that day is guaranteed, it's untouchable. They can try to take it away from you, and you have a right to say no to a flight if it touches your day off, which I have done in the past. Because when you take a guarantee, we get about 6 of them, I think, in a month, 5 or 6. And so when you get your days off that are guaranteed, usually that's when you plan all your things. So if you have any appointments to do, if you have any errands to run, you put all of those into those days off. So that's pretty much all there is to it. That's the only things you really need to know is those 4 days for me. Other airlines, I think they do similar things. Like I said, the hours change. So one of my biggest pet peeves is that some people who know me, not necessarily like my best friends, but people that I've worked with at other jobs in the past, you know, acquaintances here and there who know that I'm a flight attendant, don't seem to remember that I'm on call. I get a lot of questions about where am I flying next, or how long are you going to be gone for this time? And all of these questions, every single time that I have to explain again and again and again, I have no idea. I might not even be called. You know, people ask me, oh, where have you been? Where have you been flying? And sometimes the answer is nowhere. Like, this month is really, really quiet so far. It's abnormal. I think there's just a lot of us on call, and not a lot of people calling in sick or trading flights, which means I'm not getting called very much. And personally, I'm happy because I have a lot of things I want to do at home, and it helps me when I don't get called every single time I'm on call. That's another reason why I would like to have a schedule at some point with set flights, because I enjoy planning things. Having your bag always packed and ready to go is something that I would probably do no matter what. Like, even if I knew when I was flying, my bag would still be ready to go. And I would always have extra stuff no matter what as well. Because you never know when something can change, you know? Like, your routing could change at the last minute because of the company's needs. When that happens, you still need to be prepared, you know? It's like, not just because, oh, I have a set schedule, that you're guaranteed that your schedule is going to stay exactly the way it was when it was made. I have another 4 or 5 days next week on call, so if I don't get a layover this week, hopefully I'll get one next week. This week I might get a turn. So a turn is just a flight that you do same day. You don't stay anywhere overnight. You just go and come home. It's totally worth it. If you're trying to spend more time at home, then you're not gone for 3 days, you're only gone for 1. What do I do when I'm on call? Anything I'd like, pretty much. Okay, no, I have a system. We take guesses. It's basically a list of educated guesses of who might get called next. We calculate how many hours everybody has. We make a list of flight attendants on call and put them in order based on how many hours you already have and how many days you have left on call in a row. For today, there are a bunch of other flight attendants on call with less hours than me and more days. Those people are going to get called before I get called. In the moment that they call, you are trying to do all sorts of calculations. You're thinking, okay, how many hours do I have on a layover? How many flights are there in total? How many days am I gone? What time is it when I come home? These are all things you have to filter while they're on the phone with you. You have about 2 minutes or less to make up your mind. You can't keep them on the phone all day. It's somewhat stressful. I've had a couple of calls where they've given me options and I was totally not prepared to have a choice. You might think, oh, the destination is really cool, but your actual time in it is not that long. And so you have to take that into consideration when you have options. I've picked places in the past based on whether or not I've been there before. 1 year later in experience, I can tell myself that wasn't always worth it. Now that I've established why I don't think I'm going to get called today, it's time for me to get on with my to-do list for the day. That pretty much sums up what I do when I'm on call. You now know what reserve means. If you know any flight attendants, you may already know what it means, but in case you didn't, now you know. If you have any questions about reserve or flight attendant scheduling that I didn't cover today that I maybe can answer, put it in the comments. If you are a flight attendant and your schedule works differently than mine, feel free to tell me how yours works. Join me next time for another video, potentially on a layover if I get called. And if I don't, I will just be here waiting for the phone to ring some more, and we can do more tea with Bree, and I will talk about some other topic while I'm not getting called. I totally didn't just get tea all over the desk. Whoops. Another little side note is that as time goes on, this area here is going to get a lot less messy. This lovely bookcase that's loaded with everything, including miscellaneous crap that doesn't belong on a bookshelf. If all goes well, by the next time that I film videos, that area is not going to look like that behind. That's for next time. Thank you for joining me today while I talk about my exciting life on reserve. Take care, like and subscribe before you go, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.